Hey everyone, my name is Kelsey and I'm a second year sophomore here at Michigan State studying human physiology. Today I present to you my Chem 252 honors option on serotonin. Serotonin can also be named 5-hydroxytryptamine or 5-HT. So I'm going to start off by stating some interesting facts about serotonin and also talk about why I decided to pursue serotonin as my research topic. So looking at the image, we can see that serotonin has a lot of interesting things that make this molecule unique. So, to start off, serotonin is produced in neurons found in the raphe nuclei, which is located in your brain. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter. Its action is terminated via removal from the synaptic cleft. It's responsible for a vast array of brain functions. It's the substance of well being and happiness. It cannot pass the lipophilic blood brain barrier, which is why it needs to be synthesized from tryptophan, which is an amino acid. And it's involved in a lot of antidepressants. I decided to pursue serotonin as my research topic because of the ongoing pandemic. A lot of people I know have been negatively impacted by the pandemic, which can constitute for things such as poor diet, because people may be afraid to go to the grocery store to shop in public. Also because they're getting inadequate exercise due to the gyms closing. They're also acquiring anxiety about losing their jobs, or some people are doing online school, which is very nerve-wracking. I also decided to do it because low levels have been associated with depression, which has been a really prevalent thing, and the involvement in antidepressants is really important for decreasing the depressive levels in certain people. It's also known as the happy molecule. So 5-HT is a prime location, and it's made in specialized neurons most often found in the raphe nuclei, which, like I said, is located in your brain, and it's actually located along the midline of the brainstem. The pathways that serotonin follows are very important because they reach almost every part of the central nervous system, including two major components, the cerebellum and the spinal cord. So, based on these pathways, there are really important functions that serotonin does for us, like the sleep and wake cycle, appetite, mood regulation, memory and learning, and temperature control. So, when a serotonergic neuron is stimulated, there is serotonin released from synaptic vesicles into the synaptic cleft, which is the space between the dendrite and the axon here in this image. The molecule will then travel across that synaptic cleft into a receiving nerve cell called a postsynaptic neuron, which is located also on the dendrite. Serotonin will then bind to a receptor present on the dendrite, which then activates these receptors. Then serotonin can go and perform its function. Serotonin needs to also be turned off. So to do this, it's done through a serotonin transporter protein, and the removal of serotonin molecules from the synaptic cleft will terminate its action. So I thought this was really interesting. There can actually be too much serotonin in your brain, which, as you can see, can be fatal if it's not fixed. So this could occur because you've blocked the serotonin uptake pump, which you can see in this image. The pump has a inhibitor on it. You can also get hyperstimulation of serotonin, meaning you just keep getting serotonin in that synaptic cleft. Or you can combine two or more pharmacological drugs, which are those antidepressants I was mentioning, and that can also cause this disease known as serotonin syndrome, which is actually really bad. So you do not want too much serotonin, as I thought. I thought that, let's get all the serotonin we can. But actually, that's really bad. All right, so moving on. Now I'm going to talk about the reactivity of serotonin and the organic chemistry behind it. So serotonin is a member of phenols, and a phenol is a benzene with an OH group attached to it. And as you can see from this picture, we've definitely got that box checked. It's also got an indole component, and that indole component is aromatic because it follows these four requirements that aromatic compounds follow. So the first one is conjugation. So as we can see, we've got two ring structures that are conjugated. Now, You may not think that they are at first, but if you look, the nitrogen has an available lone pair that will donate to the pi electron system. So that checks that box. It's also cyclic, it's also planar, and it follows Huckel's rule. So as we can see, benzene's got 3 double bonds. Nitrogen has 1, but like I said, that lone pair will donate to the pi electron system. So we have a total of 10 electrons, and that checks our box for Huckel's rule. So this means that the indole portion is very stable due to this aromatic stabilization. But we also have to note that the ethylamine and the OH on the phenol have their own reactive components. So as you can see on the left side of the screen, the primary amine is going to serve as a proton acceptor at pH 10. And also at pH 7, the amine is protonated. It's also slightly soluble in water, which is really important because, of course, we wouldn't want it to be completely soluble in water because we're mostly made up of water, and that would just serve no function. All right, so a major component of organic chemistry was this evidence from spectrums. So there are aromatic regions of this H1 NMR that are going to have more downfield hydrogen peaks than non-aromatic rings. So what I'm saying here is there's an induced magnetic field that's generated by the ring current of the moving electrons in the pi orbital. This induced magnetic field is going to reinforce that external field. So, in short, this means that it's easier, or in other terms, takes less energy to bring these nuclei to resonance, which is why they appear more downfield than non-aromatic rings. So, the H is not on the aromatic ring, let's say with that ethylamine, they're going to appear more upfield just because they're not part of that aromatic region. And as you can see, the hydrogens right here appear at 2.92, which is definitely not downfield. So this will also be true for the C13 spectrum. So serotonin has a lot of importance with those properties, which is really interesting. So here's our problem. The hydroxyl group on the indole and the primary amine serving as a proton acceptor at pH 7 are going to enable serotonin to have hydrophilic sections, but this means it is not able to pass the lipophilic blood-brain barrier, which it needs to do in order to carry out its functions. So our solution, it has to be synthesized from tryptophan, which is an amino acid. And this tryptophan can cross the blood-brain barrier and then convert through a chemical reaction to serotonin, and that's why serotonin is primarily found in the Raphe nuclei of the brain. It's also important to note that 5-HT also contains some hydrophobic properties due to a majority of the carbon-hydrogen bonds present. So this is going to mean that it's only slightly soluble in water. And that's perfect. We don't want it to be moderately soluble since it would inhibit it from participating in the important synapse functioning if it were to be dissolved in the body. So the part you've been waiting for. How is serotonin synthesized naturally in the brain? And it's really interesting. So you've got tryptophan, which, like I said, can cross the blood-brain barrier from the bloodstream. So let's say you drink something that's got lots of tryptophan in it. You're going to drink it, it's going to go eventually get to your bloodstream, and then it's going to be able to cross that blood-brain barrier that you saw on the last slide. And through the enzyme tryptophan hydroxylase, or TPH, it is going to be converted to 5-hydroxytryptophan, or 5-HTP. And then we're going to take an aromatic L-amino acid decarboxylase and convert 5-HTP to serotonin. And that's how it's done naturally in the brain, which is really, really cool. But we could also use serotonin in the lab. And this is really interesting because low brain serotonin is associated with depressive disorders. So there are current treatments for depression which aim to increase the levels of serotonin in the brain. But you're not making serotonin. You are looking at antidepressants that inhibit natural serotonin reuptake. So there are these things called SSRIs, which are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. This blocks the reuptake by the transmitting neurons, which keeps serotonin levels elevated in the brain. So this is really good thing. They have fewer side effects because they have selective action on serotonin only. So you're not messing with, any other amino acids or any other important things in the brain. You're just messing with serotonin. And you also don't have to synthesize serotonin outside in the lab, for instance. And it's also really cool because when you prescribe an antidepressant like this, you can alter the dosage to reduce the chances of acquiring serotonin syndrome. So it's really, you can work with it a lot, which is really interesting. And then in the middle, you'll just find some common antidepressants that have this SSRI component. So there are a lot of cool things that you can do to increase your own serotonin levels, which of course I'd be willing to do. Results have shown promising results in recent studies of the following things that you can do to increase your serotonin levels. So you can have some things that increase or that raise your positive mood induction. So, like watching movies, listening to music, things like that. You can have exposure to bright light. So, getting outside, getting that fresh air, taking a walk, taking a study break. You can have tryptophan rich diets. You can have physical exercise. And I think it's really important to get your daily dosage. So, the bigger impact, this is the why to why I wanted to research serotonin. So, I gathered some results from Michigan.gov, and there, as of Monday, April 5th, 2021, there are 702,499 confirmed COVID-19 cases. And with that, there are around 16,000 deaths due to COVID-19. And as you can see from this map, you can see the different regions of Michigan that have the highest cases of COVID. So, like I said in the beginning, gyms began to close. People were afraid to go out in public to shop for groceries. I personally know my grandma was really afraid to go out, and that results in poor diets. You're not getting your tryptophan. You're just have a poor diet in general, which is not a good thing. There was also high anxiety due to a loss of jobs. I know my mom experienced this firsthand, and schools moving online also affected me really negatively. So these are all reasons why brain serotonin may have been decreased due to the pandemic, which is why I wanted to research serotonin. So, with that, I leave you with the four main things you can do to increase your brain serotonin. So, you can sing the MSU fight song, fight, fight, Rock Team Fight, listening to that music, getting that natural serotonin increase in your brain, physical exercise. You can see this guy's following an online exercise program. You can also go outside, get that exposure to bright light. Look at this beautiful picture of the Landon Hall, that bright light that just shining on the building. Also, you can eat bananas, cherries, papaya, walnuts, strawberry, spinach, kiwi, pineapple. There are tons and tons and tons of foods that can increase your brain serotonin. Thank you so much.